love for you to be a part of it. The WhatsApp number is 0809 4440981. And we're streaming live on YouTube as well. So you can catch that live stream up on our YouTube channel, Smooth 981. Good morning, Mr. C. Welcome.
Good morning, Zibby. Good morning, Omatseye. Good morning, AB. Good morning, Lagos.
And good morning, AB. Welcome.
Good morning to all of you in the studio and to all of our wonderful listeners.
All right. And let's start off with the first headline. This one is coming from Vanguard. Insecurity, we're taking fight to criminal dens. FG vows.
Okay, thank you, Zibby. So, in the past few weeks or the past few months, there's been an upsurge in the rates or incidents of kidnapping, banditry, and other vices in many parts of the country, especially the northern parts of the country. And the government was saying in a statement over the weekend from the Minister of Information that it was on top of this fight and it was taking the fight to the criminal dens, and it was reassuring Nigerians that it was capable of protecting both lives and properties. And a promise was also inserted, which is no different from promises made by previous administrations, that the perpetrators of such acts of violence and killings will be brought to justice. Now, if we're to take the previous administrations as a yardstick, I'm not sure how many perpetrators of violence have been brought to book, have been brought to justice. And I'm not sure what they mean by justice. Now, in certain parts of the North, we've had criminal elements displace indigenous communities, indigenous villages, and then take over those villages. So when you say you are bringing justice, are you going to return the original inhabitants back to the indigenous homeland? Are you going to allow the criminals who removed them to stay there? So justice is relative and it has to be properly spelled out. Now, incidentally, part of the successes recorded by the security agencies, we were treated to videos where members of the Nigerian army rescued some people who had been forcefully abducted. Now, yes, kudos to the security agencies. They are doing their best given the situation the country finds itself. And it's reassuring to note that even the government admits that all is not well. And I'm going to quote the Minister for Information. And he said, there is no downplaying the reality of the challenging season that we find ourselves in as a nation. The impact of inflation on personal and household budgets and the threats to security in parts of the country. This is an honest admission, and for the supporters of the administration who live in Kuku land, they should listen to this statement and take it in. Now, to the economic situation, because he also spoke about the economic situation. It is clear that things are very difficult, things are very challenging. But the Minister of Information reassured Nigerians that the various ministries were working hand in hand together, coordinating their efforts to ensure that inflation was reduced, that the cost of living also reduced, and that things will get to a position, to a point where there is an enabling environment for business. Now, beyond the rhetoric, there is a lot of work to be done. Whether that work will be done to the end and whether we will see the full result and the benefits of such coordination remain to be seen. However, it must be stated that the government admits, right, that there's work to be done. It's not there yet. And that Nigerians should continue to endure or brace themselves up due to the measures that have been implemented. That in the short term or mid-term, we will feel a lot of pain, or long term, we will see the results. So in closing out the story, let's continue to give them the benefit of the doubt. At least they now admit that there is a challenging situation, and they also understand and they realize that they're responsible for fixing it. Nobody else is going to fix these problems for them. So we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. We'll continue to.
All right, Mr. C, as you walked us down the lane of the stories, the twists and turns in it, you kept mentioning the Minister of Information, and one begins to wonder in this administration, who the Minister of Information is, and will make you reminisce back in the days of the good old days of Lai Mohammed, who you could see a face and a voice of information in the past government. Is there a thing or two this information minister could learn from the previous minister?
So the previous Minister of Information, Mr. Lai Mohammed, became somewhat notorious because he would come out with statements that were complete variance with the reality on the ground. And then personally, I felt that he came out too often. You have presidential spokesmen who could also come out and give information. But the current minister appears to have taken a different perspective, a different approach. He only come out when it's extremely necessary, and he's decided to ensure that as much as possible, his statements are not a complete variance with the realities on the ground. Now, incidentally, he spoke about certain interventions that have been announced by the government, including the students' loan scheme. It's a shame that the student loan scheme has started, and students have lost an academic year of benefiting from this scheme. Because remember, school year started in September. The scheme hadn't started. Second semester has started. Registrations have been concluded. The scheme is still yet to start. We got the latest promise that in January, the scheme will be up and running. Today is the 29th of January. I think it's crystal clear, even to the blind, even to Stevie Wonder, that scheme is not starting in January.
Okay, so I understand AB has a grain of salt to bring into the story before we pick up his paper, The Guardian.
I mean, I looked at the things that the government is announcing, the student loan scheme, initiative to deploy lower cost CNG, mass transit buses, and low interest loans. To be very honest, I am currently of the opinion that the administration is absolutely out of its depth. If it feels that these are the kind of things to roll out in the frame of the challenges that Nigeria is facing, I think it's too little, too unimaginative, too pedestrian, too retail. We're talking about conceptual things. And I admit that conceptual things take a long time, but you say you want to reduce inflation. In fact, it's almost as if you are speaking the direct opposite of what people are living and experiencing. Yes, we'll keep the faith. We have no choice. We must flow. But I think there is a spark that is lacking in the administration's conceptual framework. And until that spark is enabled, we'll continue with these pedestrian things. CNG buses do not go on waterways. I happen to be from an area that has waterways. There is no road to my town. How do people in my area benefit from CNG buses? You see, there is not a broad enough recognition of the frame of the problem, in my view.
That leads us to the Guardian newspaper with the headline, Governor Bago advocates return to agriculture to stop insecurity in northern Nigeria. How ironic is this statement, farming in insecurity?
You know, we have been unfortunately terrorized by too many stories about how people who legitimately and honestly wish to make their living via agriculture have been murdered in Nigeria in the face of our security forces, their promises, their preachments and all that, and their encouragement. All too often, ordinary people are murdered. One of the worst in my view, and every death is a waste and is bad, but when 90-something farmers had their throats slit. Yes, it's Monday morning, but we can never normalize or forget that fellow Nigerian citizens and residents were murdered in this country. And I would say literally nothing has been done about those particular 90-something. The recent 20-something, the recent 120-something. We just have a bloodletting. So the governor saying this, I want to say, conceptually, he is right about agriculture being a very useful tool to deal with economic and other instabilities. As a matter of fact, we have a tale of two places here. There is a country in Europe, the Netherlands, that make one of the very popular one of the popular drinks. It has the name of the country inside the drink, a yogurt like that. And that country, the entire square area is about 40-something square, 40-something thousand square kilometers. Niger State is 76,000 square kilometers. It is the biggest state in Nigeria. That small country exported 122.3 billion euros worth of agricultural goods in 2022. I was looking for the total export of Niger State. It didn't show up on Google, not in the time I had. So I now looked for the entire export of Nigeria as a nation. We exported 44,000 euros, and that is oil, gas, not agriculture. Our entire exports, 44,000. Imagine a country that is smaller than a state exporting 122 billion. So if you look at it very well, truly, Niger State could become a powerhouse, but it will only happen if and when we ensure that those who will be engaged in it, both at the rudimentary level and the mechanized level, can go to farm, stay safe, and enjoy the fruits of their labor until you put security in place. This idea, as good as it is, will have a hard time taking root because nobody, starting with me, wants to have a risk of going to a farm and their body being brought back headless. So, good, Governor, it's a good proposal, but working with security forces, and that is central, that is federal government. I can point my fingers at the governor, pro or con, but until the federal government, who's in charge of all security, does what they need to do, that concept cannot come true. But just contrast those numbers. 122 billion euros for agriculture. Netherlands has many other things they export, but agriculture, they are the world's second largest agriculture exporter. Fine. The first is China. Nigeria's entire exports, including Afrobeat, music, oil, gas, and agriculture, is 44 billion. Therefore, on a positive note, I will say we have a lot of room potentially to grow our exports. Let's get our act together, secure these farmlands, and transform the Nigerian narrative.
All right, thank you for that, AB. We're moving on to the next headline, and this comes from Vanguard. The Lagos State government has issued a 5-day quit notice to different squatters under the Ijora Causeway Bridge and the Lagos Blue Rail Line overhead bridge to remove all their shanties for constituting a danger to the Lagos Blue Line corridor.
Okay, thank you. So, Lagos State government has issued a 5-day quit notice to different squatters under the Ijora Causeway Bridge and the Lagos Blue Rail Line overhead bridge, requesting that they remove all their shanties or they risk demolition. Now, this is a great move from the Lagos State government. The only challenge I have is, why are you issuing any notices? In the first place, they should never be there. If I was the governor of this state, I wouldn't issue a notice. I would clear you out of those places. It's different. So I'm going to contrast this with the demolitions that happened in Omatseye a while back. Now, with those properties, it was contestable. It was debatable whether they should be there or not, because there are houses in the area. There's a canal, so it's debatable. But for the love of everything good, how are you under a bridge, carrying out economic activity? You're molding bricks, you're selling petroleum products, you're selling beer, you're frying this, you're cooking that. How does that make any sense? Now, even the 5-day quit notice is, for me, it's too long. Because these people are just being selfish. They're not being considerate of the general impact it will have for the majority of citizens. These bridges are not there as decorative ornaments. They're there to serve the purpose. When Akongo got burnt, for over a year, we couldn't use that bridge. I know Lagosians who went through immense levels of stress, having to travel between their offices and their homes. So this is a good step. And I must commend the Commissioner for Environment in Lagos State. He's very focused, he knows what he wants to do, and he's determined to do everything within the ambit of the law. And I like the assurance he gave that once these people are cleared out, they will take full possession of the two spaces under the bridges to ensure they don't come back. And this also includes the mechanics who turn part of those spaces into a mechanics bench. So yes, people need to survive. People need to eke out a daily livelihood, but you should do it to prevent redundancy.
It is still the Smooth Breakfast on Smooth 98.1, and you're listening to Freshly Pressed. More to come on the other side.
It's freshly pressed on Smooth 98.1. We're looking at the news stories making the headlines. As always, I would love to read your messages. We see a few coming through and we'll come to them shortly. The WhatsApp number is 0809 440 981. And we're also streaming live on our YouTube channel, Smooth 981. And you can tweet at Smooth 981. We're going on to the headline coming from a Daily Trust. Federal government inaugurates committees for implementation of biosecurity policy.
Yes. In a slight comment on the last story by Mr. C, I think, and I'm happy he gave kudos to the commissioner, because as much as nobody has a right to take possession of public space underneath a bridge, I think it is commendable that he's giving them some notice just to minimize the misery that people would endure when they correctly are cleared from under the bridge. So kudos to how they're trying to go about it. I think the highest kudos is that they're trying to implement the project. We may quibble about the cost compared to other, benchmarked against other such lines in other countries, but I think it'll really enhance transportation in Lagos. So biosecurity, there's a council being inaugurated. We understand we are trying to ensure that over time we're a biosecure nation in food security, animal health security, and other environmental elements. You see, people may forget now, there used to be one disease that always used to happen to cows, mad cow disease, where all of a sudden huge swathes of cattle would be deemed unfit for human consumption. And of course, that cost the herders a whole lot. And often we have how chickens, one of them gets a disease and a person who is rearing chickens loses a lot. So biosecurity has a direct impact and effect on our food security, on our health, because nobody should ideally consume tainted products. And you can imagine a person who has faced that kind of thing I didn't say will, may choose to allow that product still enter the food network. It's important to have these policies. We've inaugurated the policy now. We have a 5-year time frame. Fine, I think that's realistic, and we should be given measurable, milestones that we hope to achieve over time. I think it's not bad while we are dealing with the day-to-day issues of life, food, health, and safety. We should also have the capacity to look into the medium to long term and make sure that when we get there, we will have policies that match the Nigeria that we want to experience, policies that are comparable to those in other places. As some people may know, when traveling to some foreign countries, there's very specific way you can carry certain food elements. Some things you can go raw, other things you must cook or fry to make sure that you don't carry pests into that country. I was shocked once when entering the US and I could not take condensed milk. It was amazing. I was delayed at the border because of 3 or 4 cans of condensed milk. And you just think they have their policy. That's the same thing we must have here. People cannot just go in and come out willy-nilly. And then within the country, we must be sure that our food supply is properly overseen. You know, with NAFDAC and all the other bodies working together, we can have a very helpful policy.
Well, I'm tempted. Maybe when I'll see you when we get there eventually. But the question again for you is, were you coming from Mexico to Tijuana to cross into the US with 3 cans of milk? Just on the side, the journalist in
I'm
me.
not. It wasn't a caravan. No, I wasn't on a caravan.
Okay.
It was from Niger, good old Niger.
So let's pick up Mr. Okay, we got messages waiting. Gilbert Musa's message is what I'm about to pick up now. It says, "Good morning from First Hack. On security challenges in Nigeria, the question is, why wait till things get out of control? The Agatu killings in Benue State in 2016 was the tonic Nigeria needed to curb kidnapping and other related insecurity issues in Nigeria." JP, of course, is here saying, "Good morning. The governor of Niger State, Bago, needs to speak less and do more. Farming before securing or security first. Abba, the government needs to sow more security of life and property." And that's what he says. So, Nedu, I believe that students' loan scheme will start in January, even if it's just to fly off like the recently inaugurated Nigerian Air back in the days, sometime before that the student left. Okay, let's pick up Mr. C's paper. Mr. C, look up this paper for us with the headline, The Punch. Lagos pledges commitment to resident safety.
Okay, thank you, Amas. So, over the weekend, there was an inter-ministry retreat somewhere in Ekpe, and the State Commissioner for Special Duties was briefing journalists on the outcome of the management retreat, and he reaffirmed the state government's commitment towards ensuring the safety of residents. And to be very fair and honest, the Lagos State government, to some extent, has been committed towards ensuring the safety of its residents. And the latest case in point is the closure of the conservation center somewhere in Lekki on the grounds of perceived safety concerns. There was a video posted about some safety concerns there, and the Lagos State government swung into action quickly. And then we must also remember that even for the event centers, they closed down a number of event centers because they don't have the requisite safety processes and procedures in place. They don't have the necessary certificates in place. And it's reassuring to know that there is a state government that is interested in the welfare of its citizens. So that having been said, we can also see this play out from the Ministry of Environment, from other ministries that are concerned. And where there are kudos to be given, we will get the kudos. So I will get to Lagos State government. It's flowers with regards to safety, because more often than not, they walked the talk and they've shown that they're trying to be excellent in some of the things.
So 2 bouquets of flowers, what you're sending to the government this morning.
All right, let's look at some of the messages coming through. Dan Okuda says, "There's nothing good to emulate from the former Information Minister, Lai Mohammed. The new minister should handle his job with finesse and honesty. Lai Mohammed made a mockery of that high office." Anthony Francis says, "It's high time the government comes up with stern laws wielding the sledgehammer on anyone interfering with agricultural activities, either by encroachment, kidnapping, maiming, or killing a farmer. Otherwise, the situation is not about to change." And this message from Idima Puza says, "Banning styrofoam by the Lagos State government is very good, but like other banned things in Lagos, proper plan for alternatives are not done. If other disposable and cheaper plastic plates are mass-produced as alternatives, the ban would be more welcomed." Let's move on to Daily Trust. A teacher at Araromi Ilobo Senior Secondary School in Badagry, Lagos, is reported to have allegedly beat his students to death. The student has been named as a 16-year-old.
This is a most unfortunate story with which to start this week. There can be, there is, and there will never be grounds for punishment that would lead to the death of a person. In school, come on. What did this guy do? He stole some. I am positing the worst he could have done. He copied somebody's script. Oh, he stole somebody's eraser. I don't know what it was. The fact is that level of sadism to result in killing somebody, because each of us may have health conditions, and that's why it's so important. I don't know about you, but I wrote lines, thousands of lines. I will never do. I will never do. I had them ingrained in my arm. There was memory in writing the thing, and there was this technique we used. We put many biros on a piece of wood and put sellotape, so you are writing on many lines. Unfortunately, the lines did not align with the lines of the page, so it wasn't exactly effective. But I'm saying there are punishments that hurt. I have not forgotten it till today. But to imagine being beaten to the point of death, that teacher, when investigation is carried out, has committed, like the lawyers, like Mr. C, there must be a title for what he has done, manslaughter, something, I don't know. But it just goes back to the notion, you do want disciplined students, and some students could be disruptive, but always remember that there are ways to punish. You can take away grades, you can give after school detentions, you can cut grass. Why would you beat a person to the point of death? That teacher is in trouble. He's a vice principal, but I think he's soon going to become an inmate.
Okay. Mr. C, you want to just probably leave a comment here on this, on the legality and what, leaving a name for what this man is facing eventually?
At best, he will face a charge of manslaughter, legal, lawful killing, not with any intention. Or if the state wants to be serious with him and make an example, they can charge him with murder. Because it can be argued that when you set out to beat him in such a manner, what was the outcome you were expecting? So what they will check is, was the punishment commensurate with the perceived or assumed offense? So he's going to need some very good legal representation, but the facts are seemingly clear. You don't beat a child to death. So there's no justification he's going to bring. Even if he was provoked, the child assaulted his parents, assaulted his spouse, assaulted his children, it's still no justification for doing that. You've unlawfully taken the life of another citizen, and you must be made to a criminal action.
You are the lawyer. Should maybe flogging and be outlawed in schools at this rate with what we see this kind of cases?
It's a relative question. It's not cast in stone. So 2 strokes. Are you saying we can't give 2 strokes in schools?
But 2 strokes may also, like AB had said, you don't know the condition people walk about with.
So you don't know the condition they walk about with, but generally speaking, we're assuming the person is healthy. 2 strokes will not kill anyone. 2 strokes should not kill anyone. But where you are flogging a person to the point the initial cane breaks, you ask for another cane, you continue, that cane breaks, you ask for another one. There are more subtle ways of punishing people. You can tell the person to put a finger on the ground with and they go. Let the guy sweat out, burn some calories for like 20, 30 minutes.
Wow.
And then he goes back. But then the lesson stays from the exertions he's gone through, stay with him, and he will be much better. And my dad used to do that. He didn't have time to carry a cane. He just put a finger down, and when you sweat it out, you then tell you, okay, you can now go and sit down and reflect on what you've done. And then do you want to go through this? Okay.
AB was talking about writing lines, and in that case, when we go to some of these classrooms back in the days and on our desk, we would have seen, do not forget the days of good old Omatseye was here, or Mr. C was here, and all of those. I'm just trying to see how those play out, and if that was an offense.
I think the lines were like, I will not do it again 1,000 times. But those the lines we're talking about?
Yes.
Yes, like those kind of lines where you say, I will not leave class before 8. I will not leave class. You have to write it 1,000 times. You will never leave class before 8 after that 1,000 times of writing it. 8 will be your God.
All right, let's look at the last few messages that we can. This one is coming from, okay, I can't see a name here. It says, can we please see Mr. C's face? You can see his face on YouTube.
Wave at them.
Say hi, Mr. C, and give a big smile. Tayo says, Teacher killing students in the name of discipline. He will do a long vacation in correctional services. Lagos State has even prescribed such activities. And Lara says 0 strokes. It's not just the child, but some adults are going through all sorts and taking out on the children. Stroke of what? Belt, rod? We don't know. End it. And Dewala says Mr. C is giving flowers now. Please note, it has been noted. That is all the time that we have for Freshly Pressed this morning. Thanks for listening. Thanks for your messages. And of course, special thanks to our resident flower giver, Mr. C. And
He had a good
Phoebe as
weekend.
well.
That's why.
Stay with us. There's a lot more to come on the Smooth Breakfast.